Hi, and welcome to the Master Shinobi podcast. I am Firehawk the Master Shinobi, and I welcome you to today's podcast. Hope that you're having a good morning wherever you are and wherever you are listening. Coming up on this podcast, obviously we're going to do what have I been watching this week, and we're also going to do our review of the week. We're going to have an anime review of the week, and then we have our anime influence of the week, and obviously our crazy thought of the week like we always do. And so we'll share all of those with you. Those are all coming up here on this podcast. Thank you for joining me wherever you are listening from. I appreciate it. Every single one of you for tuning in, and hopefully today's podcast will be enjoyable and learning of different animes maybe that you haven't heard of before. And so that's where we kind of get into our first segment, obviously, and we start by talking about our animes that we've been watching. What have I been watching? That's always how we start off this podcast. And so we talk about what animes have I been watching this week. And I do lean a lot towards, obviously, watching like romance. Romance is more than I probably watch other animes. So we kind of lean to that area a lot of times. But I think that I have some good ones. I think they're kind of interesting. Most of these ones that I have to share that I watched this week were like one season and done. The first one I watched is called Defrags or Defragments. It's basically about this game creation clubs, and they recruit this character who's supposed to be a delinquent, but actually is like really probably one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. So it has like this comedic aspect to it. There's supposed to be a romance aspect to it, but you don't really see that really like come to fruition in the anime. Obviously, they only do one season. I think it was 12 episodes, but I thought it was well done. I thought it was funny. I thought it definitely made me laugh. There was a lot of aspects to it that I thought were really, really funny. So, and just to kind of see those, then as they build up on the aspect of the anime, then you find out there's two game creation clubs, and the presidents of these game creation clubs are actually former best friends and things like that. So you have all these different dynamics, which I think are funny. Obviously, I'll bring this over a little bit so you can see the two game creation clubs and see. I think it's really funny the dynamics between the two, and I think it's really funny that one of them, like, it looks like, obviously in this picture, it looks like there's three girls and one guy, but actually technically one of those girls is actually a guy who dresses up like a girl, so this other guy from the other club won't punch him, which is kind of funny. It's kind of funny dynamic. It's just funny anime to watch. So I think if you're looking for something to watch, it's not a whole long anime, 12 episodes. Defrag is definitely a good one. The only bad thing is if you want to continue the story, you want to see what happens to these characters, which that's how I get. A lot of these animes are only, a lot of times you only get one season on some of these animes, and then you kind of want to see what happens. How's the story end? I think all of us want to see how it ends. We can, I guess in our mind, we can kind of make up our own ending, but I think for the most part, we want to see how it ends. We want to see how the creator ended the story. How does the story really end? And I think that's what brings us into reading mangas a lot of times, because we'll have to go and say, okay, where's the story end? And with Defrags, the manga is continuing, so there is more coming out, and so the story does continue, but they're not making any more animation, and that happens. The second anime that I started watching this week is called Charlotte, and it's basically this world where when you're younger, you have powers, and they come find out it's actually because of this dust that came down from the atmosphere that gave them powers. But after high school, your powers go away. You don't have powers anymore. But you see this one kid who basically is using his power. He thinks his power is to possess people for 5 seconds or whatever. And so he's using it to cheat on tests and get scores on tests. but then they recruit him for this academy. They recruit him to basically be in a safe haven, because they're basically in this world to take these people that have abilities and they test on them. They do all these scientific tests on them, and so you have this dynamic. You have a romantic dynamic, obviously, in this anime, and I think there's a lot of funny parts of it too. But then they kind of find out that this character's real power isn't actually possessing people, but when he does possess people, he actually takes their powers upon himself, and he can actually do their stuff. Like, he can actually take their powers from them, so then he goes and wants to take all the power from everybody else, so that way everybody will be safe. And because he took all these tens of thousands of abilities on himself, he gets amnesia. So it kind of stinks at that part. I don't like stories with amnesia. I can't stand those. The romantic elements of amnesia. Like, I've watched a lot of different shows. To me, they ruin it with that. And maybe it's just me. Maybe some people, I know a lot of people like some people's favorite movie out there is like The Notebook, and it has an amnesia factor in it. I can't stand The Notebook. I can't stand areas that have the amnesia play line, because I guess that's my greatest fear, is that you fall in love with someone and then they forget who you are. And so I guess none of us want to be forgotten. So I think that's why I didn't like the ending of this anime, which has happened a lot of times. Like I said, usually when an anime or even a TV show ends with an amnesia line, it just, I don't know, it turns me off. Like, I used to, back in the day, I used to watch a TV show that many people probably don't know about, but it was called Chuck, and I used to love that show, and I thought it was such a great show, but at the end of the day, I hated it, how it ended, because, one of the characters gets amnesia and then forgets about him, and it just, I hated it, and so that's kind of what I hated about this anime, is that the character doesn't remember at the end of it. But I mean, I guess that's rightfully so, because he took all these powers on himself. But I just hate amnesia storylines. The next anime that I've been watched this week was called The Convenience Store Boyfriends, which is a romantic element, and I think it's kind of an interesting romance element to it, and I'm not sure if the anime actually features the end of the story, if that's how it ended. They obviously didn't do any mangas. They did light novels, 4 volumes, and so I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and read the light novels to see if that's how it really ended. But I thought it was an interesting story. You have different dynamics of different relationships throughout the series. You have your main 2 guy friends and your main 2 girlfriends that are kind of friends, and then they're kind of into each other. And so you have those different, you have the character who's a jokester, who's into a really serious girl, and he really likes her, and she's kind of not sure of herself, so she thinks he's always joking all the time, but then they end up kind of getting over that and stuff. So it is different, and obviously the main character's kind of always been secretly in love with this other character, but he didn't know that he was actually, the whole time, the character they fell in love with as a kid was her twin sister, who actually passed away, which is kind of a crazy dynamic. But it is an interesting anime. And like I said, they only did 1 season, and so it's something you can watch, kind of binge watch and get done and be done with. But it wasn't a bad done anime, and obviously it plays out the convenience store thing. Obviously in Japan, the convenience store life is very, very real. For us, we might complain about convenience stores, but in Japan, they have people go to convenience stores for convenience store foods. Their 7-Elevens are better than our 7-Elevens. They do fancy meals and stuff, where some of our, there are gas stations, convenience stores out there that actually do cool stuff. They actually have good food, like Sheetz and Wawa and stuff like that on the East Coast, that they actually do kind of decent food. So But it's kind of plays out in the convenience store and high school life. But it's kind of crazy. It is a pretty decent anime. Now, the anime that I'm going to review this week, obviously, this had its season ended. So now that we kind of go to our what I've been watching, obviously this one's kind of included in what I've been watching as well. But I'm actually doing a whole season review on it because it's finished. Obviously, A Sign of Affection finished, and it kind of sounds like we're not going to get another season. So it's going to be another one of those animes that if you want to know how the story ends, you're going to have to read the manga, which isn't bad. I mean, obviously isn't a bad thing to do. Like, I think this I wish they would do another season. I hope that they still do. I mean, it just ended just this week, so maybe they will. Maybe someone will pick up and want to do another season because it was such a popular romance. The story is just so cute. You know, you got a girl named Yuki who is deaf, which I think that's what makes this romance anime so different, because you have a lot of romance stories, movies, animes, whatever. It always seems like it's like the same story line, just kind of switched up some way or another, and you're not getting something unique. And so what I'd like about this anime is that it's really unique. It takes a girl who is deaf, so she has a different perspective on life. So it makes a different dynamic for the story. Because most of the time the story is they're either enemies and they actually end up, you find out that they actually live next to each other all the time, or it's the popular girl starts dating the unpopular guy, and you have all those different dynamics. But this one's really different in the sense that you see the world through someone who is deaf. And obviously, when I was younger, I actually worked for a camp that worked with the deaf, so I did know a lot of American Sign Language and stuff like that. So I think it's really cool to see the world through her eyes and experience it, how she experiences it. It did really good dynamic on that, showing how the world works for a deaf person and showing the sign language, and obviously not being able to hear people, how they get their attention. I think those things are really cool dynamics of the story. She's just really adorable. I just really, really like this anime. It's probably one of my favorite animes that came out this year so far. I mean, I do like Solo Leveling. I love 7-Time Leap and some of those stories that are still continuing. I like some of those stories, but this one just really, I don't know. I just really, really loved it, and there was so much to love about it. I mean, she's just really adorable, and then he is just, I mean, I don't know, what is it about characters that have like gray hair that just, I don't know, there's something dreamy about it. You got Kakashi, and you got Gojo, and you have all these characters have gray hair, and you're just like, yeah, I'm kind of into that person. But I like his dynamic of him, like how, he's, people think that maybe he's just trying to use her, and take advantage of her, but he's not. He's just fascinated with the world and how the world works, and he loves to learn, and loves learn new languages. He spoke, in this series, he spoke German, English, and Japanese, and now he pushed himself to learn sign language, which I thought was really cool. You had a really cool dynamic with him. He loves to travel and does all these different traveling things. So then she wants to go and get a job, which he has trouble finding a job because of her disability, which I thought was well done. That a lot of people look on people that are deaf or people that are, have disabilities in a different light. And I thought this was well done in that way. And some people don't want to hire people that are deaf. I actually worked when I was in college, I was in Oklahoma City. I worked for Home Depot, and we actually had a guy there that was deaf. And so a lot of people couldn't communicate to him and stuff like that. But, there's only a few of us that actually didn't know sign language. So, but he could read lips, just like Yuki in the story. He could read lips, so as long as you were looking at him, he could see what you were saying and stuff like that. He could understand. Okay, I got. Which that's a skill in itself. Being able to read lips is such a skill. Like, you don't understand how much of a skill that is. But I really do love the story. I love the dynamics of their relationship. I love the side character. There's so many different side stories, and you have like 2 other side relationships, kind of, in a sense. And you have all these different side characters that are just bring like such a great dynamic to the story that I think is really cool. Obviously, she has a childhood best friend who I don't like. Some people might feel sorry for him. What is it with romances all the time? They always have the childhood friend is always secretly in love with the other character, right? Whether it's a boy or a girl, it doesn't really matter. They're always secretly in love with the other character, but now it's too late, right? They had all these years to tell that person or ask that person out, and they never did. And so that I don't feel sorry for those kind of characters, because you do have a great relationship with that person. And maybe it is scary to take that leap, but don't feel bad. Don't hate this other person because they did what you couldn't do, right? You were too scared to take your chance. And if you didn't take your chance, then that's on you. And so this other character, obviously, is a childhood friend. He's very protective of her, but like in the same instance, I think he kind of babies her in a way or tells people how they're supposed to. But he's also kind of really mean to her, telling her that she's a fool and stuff like that. In a way, it's kind of like, I don't know, passive aggressive in a way. Like he wants to like her, but I don't know. It's a crazy story. But what I liked about that dynamic is that the main character now goes and tries, because he wants Yuki to be like, see that that's important to him too. So he tries to become friends with him, this childhood best friend, and he's like, hey, I know that you're in love with her and stuff like that, and stuff like that. He sees it. He's not dumb, it's not that he can't see it. He understands it, and he's like, hey, I really do care about her. I really do love her, and I'm going to treat her right. So it's okay. Don't think that I'm not going to treat her right. And so I think that's a really cool aspect. You can really see how great of a guy he is, because he went out of his way to be like, hey, I want to be friends with you as well. I don't want there to be any, for her sake, I don't want there to be any like animosity between us, anything that holding us back from our friendship and being great friends. And so I thought that was a cool dynamic. Of course, then you have your side couples. Obviously, his cousin and her friend, her college friend. Like, she has younger, like high school best friends. This is her college friend who obviously doesn't know sign language. They communicate through like phones. She types it on her phone and shows each other, and that's kind of how they communicate with each other. But it's kind of cool to see the side relationship kind of blossom too, and I think that makes it just as exciting, just as cool to see these side relationships, see how they blossom. And the one I think that I was more excited about seeing in this anime, the side relationship that I was kind of glad that they ended on. Obviously, this didn't come to fruition until the last episode, was Shin and Emma. Of course, Emma really, she was really in love with, Yuki's boyfriend, and before that, in high school, they were in love. Well, she loved him, and then it's kind of funny, like kind of not really funny, but it's kind of crazy to think about. Shin was in love with Emma. Emma was in love with someone else, and you had this dynamic that everybody was in love with someone else, and nobody really knew about it. So now that Yuki and them got together, Emma, Shin didn't want Emma to take it really bad, but he was afraid to tell her because he was also going to take his chance, his opportunity to be like, hey, I like you. I've always been into you since high school, and you have that dynamic, and it's kind of crazy to see that aspect where they're like, something else can come of it. So you kind of have this crush and this love for someone forever, but it ends up turning into something else. Be like, Emma didn't get who she wanted, but I think she always had kind of a thing for Shin as well. But Shin had literally said that he wouldn't end up with Emma in a million years. But he said that to get people off his back and not make it kind of weird between the two of them. So I really did like this anime. I hope and pray they do a second season. But if not, I just like any other anime that I've watched that doesn't continue, I'm that invested in it that I will read the mangas and stuff like that if there's not a continuation of the story. Like, obviously, my first anime that I watched, my very favorite anime, Hunter x Hunter. To get more of the storyline, you had to go read the mangas. And now, we don't know if we're going to get any more storyline, which is kind of sad. But I think if you haven't watched it, it's still worth watching. Whether you heard some of the things I said and were like, oh, that's kind of a spoiler or whatever. I say this so that way you go out there and watch it. It's so cute. It's so worth watching. Don't rob yourself of that joy. This is such a great romantic anime. Like, I mean, to me, next year when they do anime awards, this should be the romance of the year. Like, honestly. There's other good ones, but this one is so cute and so well done that it should be the best. That it should win an award. If it doesn't, I don't know. I don't. If it's not nominated, then people are crazy because it's so popular. It's so popular. People are nuts. If they don't do it, it's so nuts and so crazy. But I really do enjoy that anime very, very much. So if you haven't watched it, go ahead and watch A Sign of Affection. I think it's a really good, really well done anime. So that's my review of the week. And now we're going to move on to the next segment, obviously. Next segment is our anime influence of the week. Some of the things that in my life that are influenced by anime, not maybe necessarily anime related. Maybe it's not necessarily anime. Last week we talked about the crazy McDonald's sauce. I was so, crazy about that. Is crazy, really crazily good sauce too. That savory chili sauce. If you haven't tried it yet, go to McDonald's, get it before it's gone, because it is really good. I know I'm going to be obsessed with it. Even after it's gone, I'm going to be like, I wish I got more. Can I buy a whole box of this? Because I would definitely, if they did sell it in stores, I would definitely get it. But my anime influence of the week is basically moving into my gaming influence. Obviously, there's a big time game most people are probably into. It has a big fan base, and it would be Genshin Impact, which I really love this game. I became obsessed with it, but it is obviously anime. All the characters are made to be look like anime. They're in an anime, even though you don't have an anime story. I mean, there's stories in the game itself, but it's not like it's not like it's based on anime. Like, you have games that are based on animes, like Demon Slayer has a game. Hunter x Hunter is actually doing a new game, but Hunter x Hunter's had 1,000 games, it seems like, and so is Naruto and Dragon Ball and all them. They've had a bunch of games. One Piece has had a bunch of different games that came about from the anime. This is just its own thing. And people cosplay as, Genshin Impact. And they have these characters and they have the stories. And so there is an anime element to it. But basically you play as, obviously you get to play as a girl or a guy. And they're twins. And so either one you play with, I think, is really cool. Whatever one you want to play with, I think it's cool. I I will say that the guy character, the voice actor that does his voice is the voice of Tanjiro. So if you're a Demon Slayer fan, like the guy that does Tanjiro also does the voice acting for Genshin, which I think is really crazy. But I think it's a really good game. The map is so huge and it's so like well done, so well done. I mean, just the graphics and just they have put so much time and effort into this game. And obviously, it's a free to play game. So, I mean, some people want to go out and spend money maybe on buying more characters or weapons or whatever it may be. Somebody wants more things. And so, yeah, that's how they make their money, obviously, is you buying those things, buying different outfits or buying different characters that have different elements. Obviously, there's 7 elements that they use in this game that you can wield. Pyro, which is, obviously everybody knows what pyro. What's it? Pyro, hydro. They have ice, geo or earth, wind. I think I'm trying to remember all the 7 right now. But there's 7 different elements you can wield. The main ones you wield in the beginning is wind, and I think for me, I haven't found an element yet, but I haven't seen how it is for you to wield all the elements yet. I think I've done hydro, plant, earth, and wind. So I've done 4. There's 3 more I haven't done yet. And I want to see the experience what those are like to wield those. But for me, I haven't found one that's better than wind. I just really like wind. But there's so many different characters. A ton of characters out there. There's so many of them, and some of them really good. They wield different elements and different things. I just really enjoy a lot of the characters. Some of them are really tiny and they're adorable to look at, but they're really crazy. You got different weapons. Bows, claymores, swords. It's a fun game. You get missions. You have missions you have to do. Side quests, world quests. You get daily commissions you have to do. There's so many different things you can do in the game to level up and get better. I literally will play this game sometimes and lose track of time, and before I know it, I've been on it for hours. Just hours and hours spent just playing the game. So that's my anime influence of the week. Obviously, this game is amazing. It's free to play, so if you enjoy an adventure game that obviously is going to take a lot of different quests you're going to have to do. You're going to have to go do some of the quests are easy. You just got to go give a letter to someone and bring it back, and then some of them are different things, and I think it's kind of crazy to see those different things happen. But it's definitely a good game, and I definitely think that it's definitely worth playing. So if you play Genshin Impact, it's definitely an amazing game to play. So I think that brings us now to our crazy thought of the week. And our crazy thought of the week, obviously, is definitely my crazy thought of the week. Obviously, definitely is why Madara turned out the way he turned out. And so I have kind of a theory. There's a lot of different things you can talk about with Madara, obviously, and how he turned out the way he did. Some of it is just because the village that he helped found obviously turned out, to be against his rivalry, and he's really worried about the Senju clan being over the Uchiha clan and just having that crazy impact over himself. And I think that a lot of times, that can influence who we become. I think Madara could have turned out drastically different if different aspects turned out a different way. And we have talked about this. Obviously, I have the Madara. If Madara killed the Shinju clan, what that world would look like. What, those are out there. You can see that playlist. I think there's 5 of them. You can go see what that world would look like if Madara killed, the first Hokage and killed off the Shinju clan, killed off all of them. There's different avenues that could have changed even dramatically. If Madara did become the first Hokage like he was supposed to, I think the world would have been different too. Madara's path would have been different. He wouldn't have turned out to be as bitter, as he was. But I mean, you have to see in his life that he lost everyone. All his brothers were lost to war. He grew up, all he knew was war. And all he desired was peace. He hoped that he would find peace and that peace would come. And he got obsessed with it, where he wanted to have peace at all costs, whether it meant destroying everything. But I think ultimately, the reason why he wanted to destroy the Leaf Village, it was kind of saying that he wanted peace, but ultimately he wanted to destroy the Leaf Village because it didn't turn out the way he was hoping, because it just became exactly what he didn't want it to be, that the Shinju clan became over the Uchiha clan, and they didn't treat the Uchiha clan very well. You can see that, obviously, because the second Hokage takes and puts the Uchiha clan over the police department so they can never be Hokage, and then puts them in their own little section in town. Their own little section, kind of their own little area, kind of taking them and, segregating them from the rest of the village. And those things really didn't help the Uchiha clan. It didn't help Madara like them. And so he obviously started pulling all these strings and became who he became. If you watch Naruto, you've seen what he becomes. And I think part of that is, obviously, it's kind of crazy to see their progression. Obviously, Madara and the first Hokage were like best friends when they were kids. Like, they had a great friendship. They weren't enemies until they found out that their last names dictated that they were enemies. That the Uchiha and the Shinju clan hated each other and were enemies, mortal enemies. And that obviously ruined their friendship. And that changed things for them in a lot of ways. And I think that changed Madara. Obviously they battled each other greatly. They warred against each other because they were supposed to. They had so many great battles, and he tried to kill him many different times. Many different times they tried to kill each other, tried to ambush him, and try to kill him, and try to have the Uchiha clan come out on top. And then ultimately, obviously, after the battle was done, ultimately, Madara helps found the Leaf Village, helps found it, helps start it with a dream of peace between the two. But it doesn't turn out the way he hoped it would turn out. And I think that makes, obviously, he becomes bitter and things change in his desire and his ways. And obviously, I think Madara also kind of had a secret love. I think he secretly loved the first Hokage, and we know that he wishes that when he dies, he says he wishes that he was like him, that he was always the optimist and always the one that saw the world in a better view than Madara saw it. And he wishes that he was like him. And that he says in his death that he has never stopped caring about him, never stopped loving him. And I think I think ultimately, there could have been that dynamic or that aspect of this. This is where it comes to my craziness. It could have been that aspect of obviously like actual love, like he actually romantic love. And what if they, craziness, what if they, like, what would their lives have been like if they actually, instead of warring each other, instead of battling each other, that they just were together? Like, I think some people probably would think that's a crazy idea, but like, I like it. I like the idea of them being together. I mean, two great warriors. Like, they are like some of the greatest warriors in Naruto history. Obviously, obviously, it would have made the world a different place if they were obviously would have made the village better, because losing Madara made the village more vulnerable. But if you have Madara on your side, it's always gonna be better, because Madara to me is probably one of the greatest like anime villain of all time. Like, he was so like strategic in the way he did things that I thought it was so amazing. But now if you bring that guy who has such a strategic mind, such a great warrior on your side, you would be so much stronger. If the Leaf Village continued to have both of them, their influence, it would have been so much better than just having the Shinju clan's influence. But if you have Madara, it would have been such a stronger village. And so that's my crazy thought of the week, is that Madara turned out the way he did because he also kind of never got to be with the person he loves. And that can make you crazy. That can make you nuts, because all you want to do is be with the person you love. And if you can't, we see it all the time. They even show it in movies all the time. Someone not falling in love with, or getting their way, or being with that person that drives them crazy, and we see it all the time. So that's my crazy thought of the week. I appreciate everybody for watching, and I hope that you will go and subscribe. If you're not subscribed, if you are a subscriber, I appreciate that very, very much. I don't take that lightly. Definitely try to help me out with the view counts, and try to help me by at least trying to watch watch the content, watch the shorts. I would appreciate that. Share it if you like it. Share it for sure, because that would definitely help me out so much. Follow me on TikTok if you have not followed me. Obviously, it is Firehawk the Master Shinobi as well on TikTok and Clapper. I would greatly appreciate that as well. And if you like me, are a fan of energy, clean energy that doesn't make you crash, definitely go get some Rogue Energy. And just remember to obviously use code Firehawk to save 10% each and every time that you get it. I would greatly appreciate that as well. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time right here on the Master Shinobi podcast.